There we go. Welcome to Property Quorum. As ever, a slightly late Property Quorum, and I apologise for that. But here we are once again to discuss the ins and outs of the property market, especially focusing today on property tech, portals, and pitfalls. And it would be remiss of me not to throw Hamish straight under the bus.
What we have a situation today is something which is gaining significant momentum throughout so many fields of business. And in particular, many people are trying to bring it into the auspices of conveyancing as well. Now, we all welcome the use of AI when it is actually going to benefit and further our intent and speed things up for us. However, there is always a danger when we enable something like artificial intelligence to take over, that whilst we have an intent for that artificial intelligence, it does not yet have the full capability of human intelligence. And there are certain things that it would actually sort of appear. So the danger is, and this is what we were speaking about this morning, how far can we rely on artificial intelligence to actually put the appropriate data, the most up-to-date data, and make sure it is all appropriate data into any of the information? Because all of us here are looking to put the right information in the right place, so a decision can be made by buyers, by sellers, from the legal perspective, from the development perspective, and of course, from when Wendy looks at it, the perspective of those who are buying into property for the first time. How much can we rely on that information so far, or are we overusing this artificial intelligence before it's been fully checked out?
Good morning, Juliet. It seems to me that as we race towards a Skynet scenario, that and we see visions of Sarah Connor running down the road, is AI taking over the property business or no?
It's certainly making a headway, and I do think it can be quite handy if used well, but it's not an absolute replacement for the humans involved in transactions or the human element of it. I mean, I had an assistant who was just using AI to send emails and things, and there were complaints about it just being too robotic. And her English wasn't her first language, albeit she should have been aware that, when you send an email, it shouldn't sound like AI wrote the email. So you've got that sort of problem where generationally, I think the younger people are so reliant on this AI, because you're writing a text, for example, and AI finishes the text for you. So it's almost as if it's leading you down a path to tell you what you should say rather than you expressing yourself. And I always liken this to children at school who they use calculators. You almost forget your timetables when you are using these calculators because you're so reliant on it. And there is that danger. There is that danger that you're looking at a document and you've asked AI to summarize it, and AI hasn't quite picked up all of the points, or it's not as accurate. So the human element, it's absolutely essential. It's not replaced. I mean, as far as portals are concerned, I have to say, someone who's come from the generation of, say, paper applications to the land registry, and now having a portal where I can download office copies at 10 o'clock in the night or submit an application for registration, I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think it's taken away from the issues of having stuff lost in the post. It's taken away from the timing element of it, having to wait for stuff in the post. But it's also added an element of pressure on the lawyer to get things done a bit faster. So before, where you had, say, 48 hours to turn things around, it's almost instantaneous, and people aren't understanding if there's a delay in you replying. So I think there's a bit of a balancing act here. I think it's a good thing, but it's not where it needs to be. So it will continuously change throughout the years and get better, but it just certainly isn't a replacement for human input.
I remember when the Inland Revenue started using portals, it didn't seem to accelerate anything. It just created extra layers of complexity. Are portals and these methodologies that allow you to effectively not have to interact with people directly overall a good direction to be heading in? I mean, I know it makes things easier for you. I know you work all the hours God gives, so you tend to work at 10 o'clock at night anyway. But is this really helping us overall? What would you say to that,
I
Julia?
think it is. I mean, if you know, I absolutely think it is. I mean, I've got transactions where you complete a purchase and you need to submit stamp duty forms, and you can do that instantaneously. There are helplines attached to it. What I find difficult is you'll call up the HMRC and they'll say, "Oh, we don't know. You need to read the guidance." So if they don't know and they work there, then how am I supposed to know? I'm not trained. So that, I think, you know, I mean, but that's a people thing, and that needs to be changed. It's not an AI thing. The portals, once they work, are fabulous because there's that level of accountability, and you also have a trail of what you've done. Whereas with the paper stuff, there is still that issue of potentially getting things lost.
Wendy, I hear the younger people are using AI as an alternative to basic English.
They use AI for all sorts of things, including sorting out meal plans, for example, or as exactly as Juliet said, trying to improve their grammar in English if English is not their first language and they're asked to send out emails in their day job. One of the things that I want to highlight here that I feel it's going to be a bit of a struggle, I think, for a long time until people start getting a bit wise to this. When using portals, when using AI, it's pretty much aligned to something that's very vanilla and straightforward. As soon as you have something that's slightly out of the ordinary, a little bit more complicated, computer says, no, it's so difficult to actually get the systems to work for you. And it's also really difficult to get hold of the right person that you need to speak to actually try and sort the problem out. So one thing that it is great for trying to streamline all the standardized stuff. But the biggest shortfall I find is in those little outliers. And let's face it, in the property industry, we probably have more outliers than we have stuff that happen to be straightforward and mainstream.
I could almost caused an international incident when I asked my daughter if English was her first language from one of the messages she sent me. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Chris, in a world where you've just spent umpteen years, as you have done, from the roots upwards, no pun intended, or maybe I should be, to build a business that's based on a series of interleaved series of papers and interactions, suddenly to find that AI is taking over half of it, is that disturbing or something you welcome?
It's a topical subject, Gareth.
We never do those.
AI, ChatGPT, by its own admission on every page that you start a new conversation with, it says it's fallible. So do check for the output because it may be wrong, and it's true. So I've been using it this morning trying to calculate some working capital requirements as because we're doing a big capital raise at the moment, and our capital partners come back to us and said, "Well, what do you need?" It's like, great question, thanks for asking. And then digging through our 5-year financial forecast, and ChatGPT is just overwhelmed at the depth of information that's in there. And it's given me 3 different answers so far, ranging from 12 to 17 to 17 million. It's like, okay, well, bit random.
Are you saying that ChatGPT has come back to you and said, yes, you need some money?
Yes, basically. So you need some, go work it out yourself. So thanks, ChatGPT. So that's my next job over the next hour or two.
I think there's going to be a new disease, which is going to be GPT anxiety, whereby you put something in, you think it looks perfectly wonderful, and then when you dig in, you realize some of it is just completely fudged.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I've been using it quite heavily recently for some of these spreadsheet formulas, and it changes its mind. It's like, this doesn't work, and then it comes back and says, "Ah, right, I see where I might have got this wrong. Let me mislead you again." Like, great, thanks. So yeah, these things are fallible. The portals are fallible. I was fighting with HMRC's portal yesterday, signing up for some other service. It's like and like Wendy mentioned, that the computer says no. Like, I need this date, but this hasn't happened yet. It's like, well, okay, you can't go any further. Well, now what do I do? There's no one to talk to. I'm not going to spend the next 2 hours on a wait line. So it's like, log a complaint, let them chase me. So
I'm convinced that ATM will say you only have one person at the other end of these phone lines these days because they've spent all their money on server farms.
Maybe so. So yeah, it's that these things are great when they work, and having access to that information, just having access to all the stuff on the land registry is fantastic. Being able to pull different titles, find the different information, find the different challenges with different titles. That's great, and when it works well. But oftentimes these systems aren't fully tested or aren't fully thought through from a practical or a user perspective, and it causes issues. And until those issues,
we've got a message referring to you. Actually, there we go. Hi, Chris. Good to see you live with Juliet. He also says AI is a solution as well as a challenge if not used correctly. Well, that's never a word true was spoken in jest.
Yeah, I'll say. And then there's also the potential for nefarious actors to get hold of the information, and it's a whole minefield.
Wonderful. Hamish, now, given that you work in a profession that is intensely data-driven, is AI going to radically shake that up for you? Do you see any signs of that happening?
I think you've got it is radical. However, it needs to be. We do face, when we particularly look back, and I did actually call it the AI, I put it down as being American intelligence, because when we originally had it sort of coming through a couple of years back, it was purely coming, the majority of input had actually been from the American perspective, and also those around the world who speak American English. And the sad thing is they all spell exactly the same way as do the Americans, and take out common words in the English language. The word children or the word child, you will very, very rarely see anywhere in life at all now, unless it's me that's written it down. I don't know anybody else who uses the word child or children when speaking about the KID type sort of word. However, it has improved significantly, and we do get some great stuff coming back to us. But strangely enough, it's a bit like predictive text, because now and again I will get carried away, and I type. I don't come from this wonderful world of being able to sort of type on my sort of, on the old sort of keyboard, and up comes the wonderful information because I'm watching what I'm spelling and all the rest of it. Predictive text takes over. I press the button, go, and then where the heck did that word come from? Now, AI, I think, probably has the same type of thing. And that was why that comment, which actually sort of came through, is so very, very true. And Juliet in particular has reinforced the need for this. We need to be aware. I mean, it used to be buyer beware, but it's everybody be aware that the information you're actually using is actually sort of accurate, that's actually been scraped, because a lot of this information now is scraped. And because of it being sort of almost predictive, the way AI works, it's assuming this is the information we want. And like Chris said, you can ask the same question 3 times, it will come up with 3 different answers. So it is very, very useful for certain aspects of what I do. But particularly when I look at some of the way the records, if I go back and I'm picking up, for example, property information, the planning permission that went through in 1977, we would apply different language to that. For some strange reason, if you work for a council, you don't use the normal English language. It's a sort of midway between here and what they spoke in Shakespearean language. You think, what the heck does that mean? But you can actually get it to replace this so it can be understood more clearly? And it can come up with sort of, but you do need to watch what you're doing. You can't accept it as fact.
Back in 2011, Bill Bailey wrote a song called The Texting Song, where every line of the song was a mistaken artificial intelligence inspired word. I think that's possibly now becoming the norm. Wendy, given the fact is that you're going to be dealing with perhaps a more and more aging first-time buyer, are they going to become more and more mystified by the processes that are going on as they race past them?
I think they're mystified already. I think part of the problem is the fact that everything is so siloed. So just as a perfect example of what I've experienced when I bought my first home, it was a flat in London, and it was around the time that London were actually making schemes to be car-free zones. And that information, although it was in the planning permission for the scheme, it hadn't actually filtered through and been implemented by the council itself. So when I bought my flat, when the council searches were done, it didn't flag up that it was supposed to be a car-free zone. So for around 8 years, I ended up having a car with a parking permit on the street outside. And then suddenly the council decided to retrospectively go through their planning portals or planning permissions, flagged that the scheme was supposed to be a car-free scheme, and then withdrew the parking permits for all the residents who lived there. So, that in itself, it would have been so helpful if all the conditions that were in the planning permission had actually been filtered through, for example, into the council searches, so that the information was accurate. And then I could have, as a first-time buyer, made an informed decision whether owning a car in London was fundamental to me or whether it was just a nice to have. Thankfully for me, it was a nice to have. But my next door neighbor, who actually owned a bus and what basically was a bus driver for school kids, it was part of her job. So it was quite fundamental that she had a vehicle in London. So one of the things that I'm really hoping will happen with all of this AI and everything coming together and all the portals is that there's much more joined up information rather than having everything still stored in silos. But I do have great sympathy for the likes of Juliet, because I think a lot of the responsibility of checking to make sure that the information is accurate is going to fall on the shoulders of the conveyancing solicitors.
Chris, you and I are both geeks and perhaps dip into this stuff more than we should. Do you find that your trust level for mechanisms, AI, portals, the whole gamut of it is increasing, or are you overly suspicious?
No, the AI, I think it's just something else to check. It's proven itself to be distrustful or distrustworthy. So no, it's just another thing that needs verifying and checking, which means I need someone else or another set of eyes on it. It does accelerate certain things. Some things, I mean, they are large language models, so they're great at some things, and they're just crap at other things at the moment, and I'm sure that will change.
Wow. Well, that's I don't know if that's highly disturbing or cheery or cheery. Hamish, would you care to take us home, sir?
I think really what Wendy was saying, we need to actually put back in what Chris also intimated this. Juliet is there as a last resort to pick up where all of these things have gone wrong. And I have mentioned this before, and I don't mind repeating it, that when carrying out the particular research work that we actually do, which is going fairly deep into all the records that are held that we have direct access to, that the council themselves will also be pushing out. I must admit, I do need to do some experimental work here. And when we do find that cladding, in particular, or the way in which the house was built, is detrimental to the residents, whether it be fire risk, whether it be the fact that it's not going to last as long as it should, and all of these other various things, that information is not readily available. AI does not pick up that information. That information isn't available anywhere. Yet at the end of the day, Juliet, that is just one thing. Juliet will have to try and apportion risk. Is there any risk to the buyer or the risk to the lender in lending money against that? So there is that aspect that, like I said, it has made a significant difference in many, many ways how we can go about things. But without that fundamental human check on it, we are not, and many councils make this error as well. They are told, wow, it is wonderful. AI can do this. We've got this incredible system we can introduce to you. It'll save you a fortune. It's only going to cost you 25 grand. And that basically is one person you can get rid of if you think about it. And so they get rid of 2 people and then find that the equipment that they've actually put in and the system they brought in does not in any way replace those experts that could, like Wendy mentioned earlier, can answer those aspects which are effectively outliers. No property is the same. We need to look at it from that particular perspective, and AI can't handle that yet.
I seem to remember when I was younger, we were told that machines and computers would be replacing people because they were infallible. Turns out not to be the case. Wow. And who knew it? Humans with expertise like Juliet and Wendy, Chris and Hamish, they're actually still required. Heaven forfend. Well, so it seems that the future is crisp and wonderful. Let's hope it's not run by AI. They still need humans in the mix, otherwise who knows where we'll be steered. Until next week, try and keep your feet on the ground, your hands pointed towards the next generation, and please look after that mental health. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.